What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content in today's video. I'm bringing this team back. I know this isn't the first time I've made a video on this team, but it's always good to see this team shining in the Ultra Leagues. The team that I've used to climb for many seasons now in the Ultra League and the Go Battle League here. And just real quick, because I know that I'm going to get the comments about it. If you don't have a Deoxys, which I know it's not extremely common to have at this point, because it's, you know, not been in raids for a while, you could use Tentacruel if you want to. And if you don't have a Greedent, just some other fighting lure, something to lure out a Poliwrath. You could even use something like Feraligatr if you like. I feel like Guzzlord is definitely the star of the show here. And obviously, yes, if it gets a line against a fairy, yeah, you probably lose. But against everything else, it has a lot of play. So let's get into the battles here. Check out these games in the Ultra League. I started off with a really solid run in the Ultra League on my stream on Saturday. Going, I think we went, what? It was a 3-2, 4-1, 4-1, 5-0 to start the stream. And then as soon as we got up to Expert, started seeing all those pesky Annihilapes, which kind of dampened the fun. But so with the Deoxys running Thunderbolt, and that's because of all the waters, Tentacruels, and things like that. You could certainly get away with Rock Slide. I did see some Talonflame, so I don't see a downside as to running Rock Slide. You just lose that lightning, your electric coverage. The opponent brings in a Swampert here. I counter with my Guzzlord because I know my Greedent's not quite going to be able to cut it. I did chip with the Psycho Boost just because that's what you do with Deoxys, because it's such a cheap move. Because it's Charizard, I do have to be cautious here. Because a couple Dragon Claws would knock out, and the opponent did swap out with pretty much enough energy for 2. So I actually go for a Dragon Claw right off the rip here in order to try and get a shield from this opponent here, because I knew that they were going to be pretty much right at the second Dragon Claw as soon as I threw my next Dragon Tail. So we go for the move, they shield up, we let the next one go. But the nice thing now is that after those Dragon Tails, Deoxys is able to tank this Blast Burn. That's what Deoxys really does with this team. Deoxys and Greedent both are just sitting there as just shield, or not shield, they're damage sponges essentially. So I get the final shield from my opponent, Greedent up a shield. I wanted to wait and see if they would catch, and I thought about it, but they did it, like the game waited just a second to show me. So they bring in a Berserker, which, respect, by the way. Berserker is so spicy. I love it. My opponent farms up the 2 close combats, which is definitely the correct move in this situation. And then I'm going to release both of my crunches here. Basically, I need to get to a body slam, or my opponent needs to... I just need my opponent to not throw before they get to a move. So, right, like they have to throw. They can't store back-to-back moves here against me here, because the body slam comes out faster than they get to another claw. So they throw here, and Deoxys is 2 away from a Psycho Boost. One of the best things that I do with this team that usually ends up helping me in the end game is banking energy on Deoxys when I swap it out. Because there's so many times where like Greedent by itself or Guzzlord by itself maybe can't quite get the job done, but they get the shield and put it in Psycho Boost range. So good game. And that's one of the things about Ultra League too. It's like you get the opportunity to play around with the bulk instead of being dependent so much on alignment. Now I go for Thunderbolt here. This is a matchup that is definitely improved by having Thunderbolt, as Registeel otherwise completely walls the energy of Deoxys, only taking damage from those counters. So Thunderbolt makes this a winnable matchup for me, or it puts me in a position where something else can possibly farm. Now unfortunately I do get the attack drop, and I stay in here because I feel like this is where I need to get this thing low enough so that something else can deal with it, right? Like now, if I wanted to, I could swap out and I could let my Greedent, for example, get to a move. So I'm going to shield up my Deoxys here and swap in the Greedent, and I'm going to look to go for the crunch if the opponent doesn't swap out, which they don't. So this is going to either force them to shield the Registeel, or I'm going to get rid of this thing, which is nice. I'll take this thing, and now they have a Talonflame, and so this is where throwing with good timing really helps. Now, obviously, I know that this is not necessarily a winning matchup in general, but by throwing with good timing here, because of how quick you get to Body Slam, I'm going to be able to almost take out the entire Talonflame unless they shield. So, like, Greedent can absolutely force a shield without giving any shields here. On occasion, it can even force 2, right? So now they're even... they're at the point now where Body Slam would pretty much come close to knockout. Like, they'll have, like, 2 HP left. So they let it go, which, I mean, by them, smart, and I can't let my last shield go. So the Talonflame is going to go down here to the next fast move. I'm probably going to bring in my Deoxys. My opponent now brings in Feraligatr. Because they made an active swap there, I'm going to get to my Psycho Boost before they would get to a Hydro Cannon. So I'm going to let that go, or not let that go, but let the Psycho Boost go through, and they are going to shield. So now I just need Guzzlord to get to a couple moves. And if I need to, I can live an Ice Beam from this range. It's very uncomfortable, but I was like, I guess I'll shield this one first. But I mean, it's always a matter of are they going to bait or not. So, like, the safe thing to do there would have definitely been to just not shield the first move. But they get to the Ice Beam. Like you see here, it doesn't do enough damage to knock out. Guzzlord is a very thick thing, has a lot of HP. Defense isn't that great, but the HP is certainly a nice big pool, like Snorlax, sort of. So, good game to the opponent there. So many times we just save the shields for Guzzlord, and it works out. So in this game, we get Tentacruel. Now, when I see Tentacruel on the lead, I almost always assume that they have the same backline because Home Slice Henry made that team a while back and popularized it. So a lot of the times when I see Tentacruel, I just assume it's this backline. Now, my opponent makes a very nice play here. They actually, well, I wouldn't say Scald is the nice play. I'm getting ahead of myself. My opponent farms up energy here and is going to get me to not shield. That's going to leave my Deoxys super low. So if it is Greedent and Guzzlord in the back, at this point, personally, like I've kind of half committed to dealing with my Guzzlord and my Greedent, and they swap and catch a resist, like not resisted, but like you would think it was resisted with how little damage that did. Scald coin flips suck, man. I hate them. I hate them. But because I can come in with my Greedent now that I'm ahead by about a Body Slam, I'm going to go for a Hail Mary Crunch here. I usually only go for one in a matchup like this, where just one debuff, like at the beginning, can flip it, and then I'll just go straight Body Slam. But typically speaking, yeah, like I've seen 2/3 of the team. This is a very boring matchup. We're just going to keep throwing Body Slams at each other. So this is a longer video because it's Ultra League, and you know what, you know, but that does give you a little bit of time to kind of like figure things out, right? Like because of matchups like this, it allows you to start making plans for the rest of the game. And it slows things down to give you time to think. So now I'm going to go for a Body Slam here. I have the ability to go for another one before they can get to one if I want to here. The opponent now swaps out with the energy and swaps in the Guzzlord, and this is kind of where I end up starting to lose this game, because normally if they don't swap out of the Tentacruel like that, and I'm not that low, I can typically use my Deoxys to finish the game because I'll have a Psycho Boost or a Thunderbolt against the Tentacruel. But unfortunately, in two shield scenarios here with Guzzlord, we basically end up farming each other down to almost having no HP, which means that my Guzzlord, unfortunately, is not going to have the HP it needs now to deal with everything else. So I do know that the Greedent's low in the back, so it'll go down to about a Dragon Tail or two. And then the Tentacruel is the main issue here. So I have all three things. I have a little bit of energy, I think, on each. I go for 3 and then the move, and I should have probably gone for Brutal Swing. And the reason why I run Brutal Swing over Crunch here is because Brutal Swing actually does slightly more damage, which is why I think I should have probably just gone for the Brutal Swing there than Dragon Claw. So yeah, I know I'm done. I lose. Good game to the opponent, though. I know that trainer. They're very good. All right, getting to the next battle. This is Talonflame. This is where I most certainly would prefer to have Rock Slide. So the way I've changed this has changed. Obviously, if I had Rock Slide, I would go for it before they get to their move. But I throw on 10 like a doofus. I thought for some reason I was throwing on 9. I think I was distracted. I was streaming while I was playing these battles. But I'm going to go for a Psycho Boost here to either get a shield or be able to do a lot of damage to the Dragalge here. I think the opponent probably, yeah, they just let this go because they kind of conceded to the point that they've already know that they've, you know, they're going to probably have to eat one of those anyway, so they may as well save the shields, right? So Deoxys staying in the back there. We eat the Outrage with the Greedent. I'm going to overfarm by a lot here because if they're going to shield a Body Slam, they're going to have to waste a shield. So I know they're probably not going to shield here, so I'd rather have the energy for the Talonflame if it comes back in, which I'm going to shield up. I feel like I'm going to shield up 1 here because I can go for a couple Body Slams here if they decide to farm me down. And this is kind of the trick, right? So I have a lot of energy, but it's like, do I really want to commit to it? So I do decide, I'm like, you know what? Hail Mary, we're going to commit to the energy here because we have so much. Maybe would have been smarter to swap out here instead of shielding. I don't know. But we're going to go for 1 more Body Slam here before getting farmed down. I could have gone for... I didn't know if I was going to live the Incinerate. It turns out that I didn't. So if you don't know if you're going to live the Incinerate, you want to throw before the third or the fourth turn, right? So you only one Mud Shot and then throw the move, because that'll allow you to be able to not take that damage. Now we farm all the way down here, and what's in the back? It's a Trevenant. Guzzlord is literally here eating all of the teams. This is fantastic. We go for the Brutal Swing here. The opponent has really nothing they can do here, because even if they were able to take out my Guzzlord, if Deoxys gets to a Psycho Boost, like, it's well within range of a Psycho Boost. So good game to the trainer. Getting into the next battle here, we're going to have Deoxys on the lead versus Greedent. Greedent here is going to be an issue, not because of the fact that it's here. This is a good matchup for Deoxys. The crunches are a pain. The problem is that I know that usually Annihilape lurks in the back of these Greedent lead teams. So I have to bait it out at some point, and I stay in too long, unfortunately. I wanted to build up energy so that I could dispatch of the Annihilape at some point. Greedent can get the matchup kind of close. Like, they have to throw, otherwise they have to eat a third crunch, and they immediately swap it in. So, like, I think they knew, or they were going to safe swap the Annihilape themselves. In the future, like, if I can ever help it, I'm going to put Guzzlord on the Annihilapes, because most of them are running Night Slash, and if they're running Ice Punch, then it is what it is. But it's just the energy, like, the energy from the Annihilape, and of course they boost here, so... I'm going to try to go for another crunch if this doesn't knock out, which it doesn't, thankfully. So we're going to go for this crunch here. And then the crunch is going to do quite a bit of damage, but unfortunately I don't really have any move pressure, and I can't bring in Guzzlord to farm this down because of the fact that they boosted. So I basically have to go... I'm just going to go straight Psycho Boost here, and I'm okay with sacking my Deoxys here if I have to, but they actually no shield. And then they come in with Skele-durge. So Skele-durge is not a bad matchup for Guzzlord, but I have to remember that they also have some of that Greedent still in the back. So if I take one Disarming Voice, it does a lot of damage, but it doesn't do enough to knock out unless there's like 4 or 5. There's quite a large number of Incinerates that needs to be applied before I go down to this move. So I'm hoping that they can commit their shields here to the Guzzlord matchup so that I can deal with the Greedent that comes in afterwards. Thankfully, they do stay in here. Dragon Claw is hopefully enough. It is neutral, and Guzzlord's not super attack weighted. It doesn't do quite enough, so I go and catch the move on my Deoxys. But because it's a Disarming Voice, unfortunately, like I thought, like, for let's explain that end game there. I genuinely thought they were gonna have me. Like, I didn't think that I was going to be able to win that, but we catch the move on Deoxys, and they either was going to have to eat a Psycho Boost and then get countered down. It wasn't going to go well for them. Good game, though. So we're getting into the next game. Really nasty lead here. Giratina goes straight to Greedent in this situation, and the opponent comes in with an Alolan Ninetales. Now, it's not a Shadow, but timing is crucial here, so I have to make sure that I don't let them sneak any charms through. I'm going to go for Body Slam after Body Slam after Body Slam, and this is where Greedent is really able to shine as a safe swap, and as well as just in general, this thing's Body Slams are just faster than the speed of sound. The opponent is already going to be to the point where they have to shield or they risk losing Switch here, and I absolutely am fighting for Switch. So 1, 2, 3, 4 Body Slam. We're not just counting to 4. That's actually the good timing if you go on 1, 4, or 7 as a 2-turn move into a 3-turn move, and here they're now going to be forced to shield. And in my head here, I'm thinking if they shield this, I'm farming them all the way down and giving them a second shield because they'll get to a move, and that's fine. Now, I don't know what they have in the back. I just assume it's Giratina Double Charm at this point. And so, at this point, like, I have so much energy now on the Greedent. The opponent decides to concede. So, I don't know what they thought, but just in the future, right? Like, before you concede, at least wait to see their third Pokemon, because you never know. If they had a Charmer, I was toast. So Cresselia lead. This is an important lesson to be had here in reading an opponent. Now, watch what move they throw here. They're gonna throw a Grass Knot. What that tells me is they're not running Moonblast, they're running Future Sight. That also means that Guzzlord is an extremely good option for this Cresselia. Now it's gonna come down to what's in the back. So I always like to whittle down the Cresselia a little bit first, because obviously the thing's bulkier than anything. And Deoxys really doesn't really doesn't seem to care too much about it. But we're going to go into the Greedent because we have to lure out a potential fighter like Guzzlord, not Guzzlord, a fighting, which would be a counter to Guzzlord. The sentence was like 6 times in my head, and I was trying to figure out which one to say. We want to get the Poliwrath or other fighter or other counter to Guzzlord out. Whatever doesn't want to see Deoxys, right? So it's going to be their Poliwrath. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to just go for as many body slams as possible here. What I like to do is get this thing down to a range and be able to farm it down. I don't commit any shields to this matchup. The opponent actually has to commit a shield here if they want, or they have to throw energy, which is perfectly fine. Deoxys gets to come in. It can eat any one charge move here if I have to, and then we just put all of the faith here in Guzzlord and 2 shields to hope that whatever's in the back is also maybe weak to Guzzlord, because honestly, who really thinks about Guzzlord when they're team building? Not many people. So Cresselia comes in and they're staying in. I'm like, you know what? I'm banking. If this is a Moonblast, I lose anyway, but they have Grass Knot, so I know they have Future Sight. So I am staying in here and I'm not shielding anything because this Cresselia is not doing any meaningful damage to me, which means that I can save the shields for whatever's in the back. And I have to assume as well that whatever's in the back is also not going to be happy to see Guzzlord. Now, I've seen a lot of Lanturns lately, and I always enjoy getting the chance to dunk on a Lantern. So I'm assuming that they have something in the back here that could be like that. Now, I go over 100 energy here just because... I mean, I don't really think there was a rhyme or reason for it, but I wanted to be able to throw a move before they get to another move. And now that they have a Feraligatr in the back, Shadow Feraligatr, so I have to shield everything here, technically. But my opponent goes, I think they go, did they go straight? I think they went straight for the Hydro Cannon here. They know that a Hydro Cannon is going to be enough to knock out, so there's like no reason for them to go for anything else. But after the Dragon Tail damage, like they're down to a point where a Dragon Claw or Brutal Swing would KO. So the right thing here for me to do probably would have been to go for the Brutal Swing to guarantee the knockout, but that's because they had a shield, so why would I do that, right? But I can combo play with Deoxys here, go for the Psycho Boost, and take them out here, and it's going to be a good game. So getting into our next battle here, we got Deoxys on the lead versus Licky Licky. Fantastic lead. Everything here has good play against this thing. So my opponent comes in with Cresselia, and I have to do the same thing as last time. I can either check the move or I swap in Greedent. I take way too long to swap in Greedent. I give them a huge energy lead. I give them like 5 moves of energy here. So Future Sight, yeah, that's going to hit pretty hard. Greedent's typically a pretty good counter to Cress, but them having Future Sight definitely makes the matchup a lot worse for my Greedent. So we're going to have to just try our best here. I don't need alignment. But what I need is to, I mean, I would prefer alignment. And the reason why, like, and that's a question I get asked a lot as a coach, which I do coaching on Metafy as well. Check link in the description in the comment for that as well if you're interested. One question I get quite often is, like, how do I know when I need switch advantage or when I need to just get shields and energy? When my opponent swaps out immediately like this into Licky Licky into something that really isn't going to be a hard answer to Deoxys, I have to assume that they have an answer to Deoxys in the back, and now they show the Mandibuzz. So this actually solves the problem for me. I don't need alignment here. What I need is to figure out what I want to put on the Licky Licky, which I don't want to put Deoxys on the Licky. I'd rather have Guzzlord, but in order to get rid of this Mandibuzz, I need to put Guzzlord on the field here because I don't want to take super effective damage from the Mandibuzz. And also, look at their team. Like, this is a very bulky team, one that is very, very apt at probably running timeout situations. Excuse me. So I need to play with that in mind, right? That's one of the things that happens in Ultra League. Somebody plays a super stupid bulky team like this. You know, you have to be able to play with timeouts. And the way that you win a timeout match is when the timer, obviously, you have a 5-minute timer in the match. And once it hits 0, the last like 15 or 20 seconds, I think it starts actually showing up. You basically want to, so I come in here to catch a move, right? But because I feel like the energy on my Guzzlord will be valuable later, so I decide to take that risk. But when you win a timeout match, it's basically who has more Pokemon remaining, and then I believe if it comes down to the same Pokemon remaining and the same number, the overall percentage, or is it, I don't know if it's number of health points or percentage of health points. But basically, at this point, like, I know that I'm going to get taken out here. So I'm going to go for the double Psycho Boost here. Again, I have a Guzzlord that resists these licks, and I have a Greedent that double resists these licks, so I can still get to moves on my Pokemon, but the game has dragged on for a very long time, so I'm going to come in with my Guzzlord here and go for the moves that I have stored. The Licky Licky is low enough, and I need to KO something on their team in order to be able to get to a point where I can, equalize the timeout, you know, how many Pokemon are left situation. And so once the Licky goes down, they kind of realize that no matter what, I think they know that there's not really a win con because their Mandibuzz has 1 HP and their Cress has like nothing left in the tank. So good game to this trainer. And I respect them for not trying to go through the hoops of playing the timeout and just conceding, because timeout games drive me nuts. Going into the Tentacruel matchup here in this next game, they lead with Feraligatr, and just please somebody get me an Ampharos, man. Goodness. Goodness. Just, man. There's so many ridiculous ABA water teams, and do you know why that is? Because Scald is so stupid and oppressive. Dude, something needs to happen to Scald. It needs to get knocked back down a peg. The amount of teams that exist just because Scald is good as it is, it's absurd. So I'm gonna let the opponent take me here. I'm gonna actually try to come in with Deoxys and get a lot of farm here. Because I want to be able to hit the Feraligatr back with a Thunderbolt or a Psycho Boost or something to pull a shield off of it, right? So, and obviously Deoxys, I don't mind taking this damage. And even if I get debuffed here, which thankfully I don't, which is there's a very rare opportunity for me not to get debuffed, but they get to another move, I'm like, whatever, it's fine. I'm putting, again, I am putting everything onto Guzzlord here. If their best answer is a Greedent, or a best answer to my Greedent, it was not the Tentacruel. The best answer is actually this stupid Reggie. So this kind of sucks, right? Because I've already been debuffed and I can't really swap out here. So I'm essentially, what I'm doing with my Deoxys is I'm basically just trying to go for as many moves as I can here. My opponent does go for a move, and I'm hoping it's not a Zap Cannon, because if I get dropped again, I have to swap out regardless. But my opponent also swaps into the Feraligatr. Now the thing about the Reggie is that we were at a point where a Brutal Swing would have possibly gotten it to a point where I could have farmed down afterwards if I had landed one. So I'm going to go ahead and just let Guzzlord do Guzzlord things here. And I'm going to shield this just in case it's a Hydro Cannon, and just in case it's an Ice Beam. Now I know this is a Hydro Cannon. They did not get to the Ice Beam here. So I'm going to be able to farm this all the way down now instead of throwing energy, which is actually much to my benefit here, because I can go for Brutal Swing and then Dragon Claw, or Brutal Swing then Dragon Tail, I should say. So we're going to be able to go for the Brutal Swing here. The opponent does have a shield left, but they're going to have to throw energy, and then I got to hope, man. I got to hope that we're going to be able to get there. Now, they do get to a charge move here. I couldn't have caught, obviously, because their timing was good, but we're going to be able to get to the Thunderbolt with 1 HP, dude. This Deoxys is pulling its weight. Now, is this enough? Yeah, it's enough. It's enough. Let's take out the Registeel. Good game to the opponent. Very close one there. All right, getting into our next battle here. We've got Deoxys on the lead versus an Alolan Sandslash. You love to see it. Dream lead here. Everything here has play against the Alolan Sandslash, assuming that they have... just assuming that they have Shadow Claw. Now, this is why I enjoy using Deoxys, is because there's so many people that you know, run these Poliwrath teams, and they're like, let me just save swap Poliwrath into the Deoxys. Like, no. They've already dropped their shields, and when my opponent swaps in Poliwrath like this, I am totally fine to just let this matchup play out and let my Greedent come in against the Alolan Sandslash and get that alignment, because you still double resist the Shadow Claws, and Greedent does very well. Now, if I go for a Psycho Boost here, now my opponent has an opportunity to flip this, I think, if they do go for an Icy Wind or a Scald here. I go for the Psycho Boost. That's basically going to drop my attack to the minimum, but they just let it go, and I'm like, okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just let Deoxys get farmed down. I don't want to. I really don't want to. So I make a decision at the last second to swap out. Normally, I would have just let Deoxys get farmed down and get the alignment, but farm on Skele-durge is very dangerous. I'm very glad that they decided to throw that Disarming Voice because I haven't shown them my Guzzlord yet. So this does open up an opportunity for me to potentially win this game. Also, remembering that I have that Psycho Boost loaded on the Deoxys for some chip damage later if I need it. So Drill Run is going to hit. Again, we're not doing too much damage here. We're still able to get the alignment we need just because they did show the Skele-durge. I can go for a Body Slam here if I want. And I do, but the opponent does CMP. So I'm just going to let this go here. And honestly, the Drill Run's not quite enough to knock out. I can swap, and at this point, I will immediately swap into my Guzzlord to prevent them from getting any farm on the Skele-durge here. So, because I'm not getting to a move before they incinerate down. There's no way. So I shield once here, and this is like, I haven't taken a Disarming Voice in quite a while on Guzzlord, so like this is where I'm like, oh, I should probably shield. I don't remember how much it does, I just know it does a lot, but thankfully my chat was in the stream with me to tell me it doesn't do that much. So we do live the Disarming Voice here, and Guzzlord's going to be able to get this farm down on the Skele-durge, and that's going to complete a 5-0 run. 9-1 with these sets. Again, we started off with some really hot sets. Unfortunately, didn't do so well. Like, it was just like, we went 5-0, then we would go, you know, we'd have a 1-4, and then a 2-3, and then we'd go, you know, 4-1 to get back up close to expert. It was a roller coaster. If you're part of the stream, if not, you know, you can check all the games I played with this team if you like. This team is very strong. Can highly recommend it as long as Annihilape isn't on literally every team that you face against once you climb over 2,700, like it was against me. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope that the explanations were helpful, and it was a little bit more of an analytical video because it's Ultra League, and I can actually have time to explain things. So thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.